Alright, so I'm going to show you how to do some data persistent, how to save some data onto your iPhone and then retrieve it back so then you can have some information persisted like preferences or some data. Alright, so first you have to look at my video on extern variables. That would be very useful. Because what I've done just now is I started a project called Persistence Exercise. Okay, I just created a new project called Persistence Exercise that creates the PE view. I prefixed everything with PE, so that creates a view controller.h and a .m and a main storyboard, the things that you know and like. So now I have added two classes here under supporting files. I just right-click, new file, select an Objective-C class and follow through, and I added two classes. Well, one class, but two files. So PE constants. I've created external variables called key name, key author, and file name, and I've given them the values. Key name is name, author is AUT, and file name is books file. Okay. Now these variables will become very useful later because I'm going to use it throughout my application, and then if for any reason I have to change them, I have to change their values, I just change them in this file. And everything else in my program works. That's the beauty of external variables. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna delete something that I had here from leftover. Okay. So your basic file comes out. Your view controller comes out like this, without that line. Also, your view controller comes out like this, and then your .h comes out like this. Right. So they're blank. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a book collection, and I'm going to save a book collection. Now, my model is not going to come from the database or anything like that. It's just going to be a regular, for simplicity, it's going to be an array of NSDictionaries. So each book is going to be represented by a dictionary, and then I'm going to save a lot of, so each book is a dictionary, meaning that a lot of books, it's going to be a lot of dictionaries, a lot of NSDictionaries to be precise. And I'm going to put all those NSDictionaries in one array and save them. Okay? So let's go. I'm going to create a couple of methods here. For example, one to create a mock books to basically populate my book library. So let's do this. This is a method that that returns an NSArray. Right, so I'm going to create an array of books. So this is create library. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a bunch of books which are going to be NSDictionaries. Dictionary book 1, it's going to be the key. Now here's where the extern comes in handy. I could just use my key name variable, colon, and then war and peace, right? Then I could use the next element is I'm going to use my key author value, and it's going to be Leo Tolstoy. Okay, and that is going to be my dictionary. However, one small thing here is that key name and key author are not recognized. That's because I have not imported the file where all my constants are. So PE constants. Now it should go a lot better. See, now they're blued and everything, and I can use these variables all along the way, and that works fine. So then I'm going to create another dictionary, which is going to be basically book 2, and that's going to be key name will be Tom Sawyer, and the key author is going to be Mark Twain. And then we're going to create one last book. This dictionary book 3. It's going to be key name, that will be blindness, and key value, key author, is going to be Jose Saramago. Alright, I'm going to put this all in an array. Okay, so return, and then the array will be, the array that I'm going to return is the array with book 1, book 2, and book 3. So here I'm returning this array in a function that returns an NSArray. I'm creating the library. Just for kicks, I'm going to create a method to print these books, okay, to print the library. So first I'm going to create this library. I want a variable to actually hold this library in. So I'm going to create in my .h, look how I go to my .h file, I'm going to create a property which is going to be an NSArray, and it's going to be called books, okay? Or you know what, I'll call it collection, because it's a collection of books, right? Now, I have a method to create the library. Of course, you can declare this method over here as well, and then make it, you know, semi-private. You can declare it in the .h and make it public, however you want. And just for formality here, I'm just going to add this to my declarations up there. All right, so now I'm going to print the library. These are pretty much utility methods. Assuming there's a library in collections, I'll call a method print collection, okay? And this print collection is going to, well, it's going to actually print the collection. So I'm going to use a for in file. Each element in the collection is an NSDictionary. So NSDictionary, dictionary, book, in self.collection. And then for each one of them, I'm going to just do nslog name something, and author is something else. And that is going to go with, remember, each book, not bookie, book, each book is a dictionary. So I would just need to access its elements. So book sub key author, and oops, first the name, then the author, and book key name, book key author, right? And that's what all it's going to do. Now, this is the fact that I have these global variables, key name, key author. It's really nice because then I don't have to be typing these strings, and it's prone for errors, right? So let's try something in my viewDidLoad, which is the first method that gets executed for all practical purposes, right? So there are methods that get, you gotta research on the life cycle of one of these classes, but the viewDidLoad will be the method where we want to do initializations and do stuff you know, to start with. So what I will do is I will say self.collection equals create self create library. All right, and then I'm going to print this collection. So then I will say self print collection. I will run this. It's an app, so my simulator is going to come up right there. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. We're looking here. War and Peace, Tom Sawyer, blindness. So we can create an array list, an array of dictionaries, and we can print it. That's fine. Now the idea is, how do we save it and how do we retrieve it? That is going to be the challenge. Okay, and to speed up some things, I'm going to just copy and paste some of the things that I need. Every application in OS X has a document directory. So I'm just going to put something here where this might be useful to see. Every application is sandboxes in its own directory and has its own directory structure. but each application has a documents directory, and that's where we're going to put our files for persisting data. That's where we want our files to go. We can write and we can read from that. Okay? So in order to get there, because we don't know where that is initially, in order to get there we need what's called a file manager, a default file manager that can look at our documents directory within our application. Okay? And so we're going to create a little method here to start doing this. Okay? Now where is our document directory? What I want to do is I'm going to create a URL with that document, with a URL to where my documents directory is, and moreover to where my actual file is going to be. Okay? In order to get the document directory, I have to do this. I will create an NS URL called doc directory, and to do this I create a file manager, which is the default file manager. This guy knows where files are and how to find files inside your iPhone or iPad. Then once I have the file manager, I'm going to say, hey, give me the URL for some directory. Which directory? The document directory. Where? In my application. Now this part here that I'm highlighting returns a set of directories potentially. So I just want the last object. That's going to be my document directory, the place where I can write stuff. And that's going to give me a big string of the type, file, colon, // and then some directories inside my iPhone. But the last place where it's going to end is in a directory. I really want to append to that the file name where I'm going to save my books. And then this method, book collection path, will actually give me the path to the file, not just to the documents directory. If I want the path to a document directory, this does it. But I want the path to my actual file where my books are going to be stored. So then what I will do is I will append to this document directory. My book collection path now is a document directory, and then I call the URL by appending path component, and it's going to be my file name. That's the other variable that came in handy, the other global variable. So then if at any point I want to change the file name, I'll just change that. And then what I do is I just return this last URL that I created. Return book collection. Okay? So basically I got a handle of where my document directory is going to be for this application. I've appended to that URL, I've appended the file name that I want, and that's what I return. Remember, this method only returns the file name of what I want to save. But because these two things together, it becomes too long, I just create a method to return that name. Okay, that full URL of the file. Now, let's say I want to file this array of books. That is really simple. So to save my book collection onto this URL, which is that file, I can just have a name called save book collection. I say save collection, which is the array where I have the books. Write to URL. Well, which URL am I going to write to? The one that's returned by book collections path, basically the method above it. And then atomically, yes. This has to do with when do you actually write the file. Yes is good. Yes is safer than no. No, start writing right away, and then if for any reason your application crashes, you might get a corrupted file. Yes writes only when it can write and when it's done, and you make sure that it's all okay. So this one-liner here will save my NSArray in a form that's appropriate for reading and writing things. Okay? That format it's an XML file basically, and it's called a plist. Okay? Certain objects can be written to plists. NSDictionaries can be written to plist, and NSArrays can be written to plist. Some objects cannot, and that's where most errors stem when people are saving files this way. They might save, for example, they might try to save an NS mutable dictionary or an NS mutable array. Those objects don't save to a plist format. Okay, so just be mindful of that. Okay, so I have saved my book collection. That's beautiful, perfect. Now, if I wanted to recover this, so in theory we know how to save a book collection, we know how to get the path where that's going to be saved, okay, the file name. Now what if I want to retrieve it? Assuming this is where my file is, okay, what I can do then is I can create a method called read saved book collection, for example, and it's going to be something like this. I'm pasting things that I have from a different project just to go a little faster, but you can stop this video and analyze the code, analyze what I'm saying at any point in time. So I have just pasted this read save books collection, okay, and what this does is first it has a mutable array, save books is nil, another array called books, and this is interesting. It's going to be an NS mutable array with the contents of some URL. Which URL? Well, the file name where I have the books. That's going to go there, look for that file, and put its contents neatly in an NSArray. However, if the books.count is not 0, okay, meaning there is something, then I will set the collection to this array. So remember, collections is the original collection property here in my .h. That's collection, right? So when I say here self set collection to books, is I'm going to set that variable to all the books that I retrieved from that file. And I will log reading from persistent plist however many books. However, if book count is 0, okay, I'm going to say no files exist, reading and creating one, because the file couldn't be found. Okay, so I'm going to say save books, which is this array over here, is an NS mutable array, whatever array, and then we'll just save something, whatever, you know, self then I'll create, you know, I'll add an object, and this is going to be a dictionary here, key name, some title. This is just to save anything. Some title, key, author, some author. This is not really necessary. I could actually just call my create library method and save that. That's fine. But I just want to show you that you can save anything you want, right? So actually, let's do that. Let's do just this for now. And I'm missing that. Perfect. So look at what's going on here. I will retrieve the books from the file. If there are no elements, I'm going to create, you know, an initial book. I will set the collection to those saved books, and I will save my collection. Okay. If the file exists, I'm just going to read the collection and do and print, you know, however many books. So let's put this all together. In here we have a collection. I'll print the collection. Now assume I don't have a collection. I don't have a book collection, or even if I do. So the first time around I am going to try to read the book collection. So read save books collection. I'll try to read the books collection. Let's see what happens. Okay, reading from persistent plist 2 books, and that is because I had a collection. Oh, you know what? I did have a file from the previous run here. Here's another interesting thing. This is how you would, if you wanted to, this is how you would remove a file. Remove item at URL, collection path, absolutely, yeah, an error, and then I need a variable error. So with these two lines, I will remove the file. Okay, so let me comment everything else to here. Now we're just putting it together. We have all the functions to save and retrieve. I'm just removing that file. Now, let's take this piece of code out. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and retrieve books that don't exist, and then I'll try to print that collection. So let's try it. Yep, so no files exist, reading and creating new one, and then I'm doing some title, some author, right? That's what I wrote. Now what I'm going to do the next step, remember, I read save book collection. This will read, will try to read. If not, it will create a book with some title, some author, and it will save it. Well, let's see if it saved it. Well, it's the same thing, read save book collections. Now this message, no files exist, should change. Instead of saying no files exist, it should say reading from plist, right? So let's do it. Here it says reading from persisted list, one book, name, some title, some author. Now let's save the books that we had created previously. So, and we will override that file, okay? So I'm going to do, that's the collection, and in here I'm going to, no, it's not right, it's save book collection. So I'll initialize the collection, I'll save it, and then I'll print it. So supposedly I am printing the book collection, and I also saved it because that was my step. So let's confirm that we saved it by reading from it. I'm not going to save it anymore, not even going to initialize it. I'm just going to read whatever I have saved. Let's see. And then it says reading from persisted list, 3 books, and then it prints them, right? So I'm reading from my persisted plist. And this works, you see that I've stopped the application several times. Even if I come back and restart, these files are saved. Okay, so these are the main functions. Read save book collection, save book collection, read save book collection. The core of this is the NS mutable array with contents of URL. That's the core, because then I do stuff whether it exists or not. And then for saving, it's basically write to URL. These are the main methods. Everything else that I wrote here is just so I have something to save and I have something to print. I hope you enjoyed this video. More to come.